Hi there, it's Dr. Syra and welcome to Therapist Thursdays. I've been thinking a lot over the last couple of weeks. A couple of weeks ago I did a Therapist Thursday just around the time that the protests were happening for Black Lives Matter, and there's a lot of pain, a lot of sadness, a lot of anger. In our podcast, when Faizan and I did our podcast, so we do Subsea Life podcast on Wednesdays, a lot of anger. And I've had some time to reflect. I've spoken to some really dear colleagues and friends, and it's a lot. It's a lot for us to hold. And I think one of the things that I'd like to offer you around this whole global movement, if you will, is perhaps a little bit of a different perspective. So I want to start with a poem. The poem is called Cutting a Trail. The pale sun glint and soft ripple, this air alive and electric, crunching, breaking twigs, springy grass, leaves flutter. My mind is a forest, sometimes soothing or maybe terrifying. It's easy to get lost here, no breadcrumbs leading home. We go off trail, crashing through nature's jungle gym. Fallen logs rot and growth, life pulsing green between the stones. The blade is sharp and cutting. We hold it together. I will not leave you here, I promise. I know these smells, these colors, a ranger of the heart forest. The way out is nothing like the way in, and I am breathing here now with you. Shadows fall, laughing, lingering, dancing away before we claim them. Pointless contemplation, rainbows of logic that melt, evaporating the point. We spin, orange and dizzy, tired of running away, tired of walking within, tired of the cross points, the choice points, the sticky, messy, fleshy stories ready to derobe. Her crown is falling, too late for gray hair, too early for open eyes, tired of waiting, watching, but finally awake, awoken. She can't sleep through this. No walk in the park. Strong legs, open heart, wide smile. You've got this. That first cut. The rest is a summer saunter. I wanted to share poetry with you today because when we're talking about the topic that I want to talk about today, it's hard sometimes to find the right words, and we can be clumsy and say things that are like, oh no, why did I say that? So poetry helps give a form to some of the hard to talk about experiences. And what I want to talk to you today about is a concept by Carl Jung, which is the collective unconscious. So Carl Jung believed that we, and many after him, including me, believe that we have kind of our conscious life that we go about day to day. We kind of think we know what we're doing, and we, whatever, our conscious awake life. And then there's another part of the mind, and it's actually the majority, we know now in neuroscience, the majority of functioning happenings in the unconscious parts of our brain and our mind. And the unconscious is where the magic lied for Carl Jung. The unconscious is this place of stories and symbols and metaphor. The unconscious is where our shadows lie. So our shadows are those part of us that we don't want to associate with. We say, no, I'm not that. That's not me. I'm not that. And so what it feels like is happening to me, and I'm not, I mean, I have teachers who could probably do much better at this in talking about what's happening globally and global consciousness. But from where I'm sitting, what it looks like is happening to me is that we are being asked to look at our unconscious. We are being asked to look at the shadows. We're being asked to look at those parts of ourselves that we didn't even know were there. and that when we see them are ugly, when we see them are frightening, when we see them, we just want to put them away. And I think that's what's come up for a lot of people in conversation over the last couple of weeks. And it's a hard place to be, because when we're looking at our own stuff, like we say in therapy, looking at our own stuff, often we want to put that somewhere. We want to project that somewhere. Like, I'm feeling angry, for example, and I want to put that on someone. Somebody made me angry. Rather than I'm experiencing the emotion of anger for whatever legitimate reason, and it's coursing through my body right now, and it's uncomfortable, and I might say things right now that cut you. There may be a kernel of truth in there, and the way I say it may be cutting. And one of the things when we look at traditions from around the world, I always go back to my course in the Dark Goddess that I took in my transpersonal psychology program. And the Dark Goddess, the main Dark Goddess that we were talking about, is Kali from India. And so Kali is about, when you see the images of Kali, she's emaciated, she's so hungry, but she's never full, and she has a garland of skeleton heads around her, and usually she's holding the head of like she's connected with the destroyer part element. And so I'm not part of the Kali group. I don't follow that tradition, but from what I learned about it, she was a way that we could get to clearing it out, right? Forest fire, just really rough, really intense, but really effective channeling, if you will, or conversation. And so I've noticed some of the things that I've been watching that have been the most powerful to me are when people are just in their emotion, right? Whether it's anger, whether it's sadness, whether it's frustration, those are some of the most effective messages that are coming through. And I also think about, for me, it would be the other side, right? So I'm a person of color, clearly. And so I'm coming at this whole thing from a particular lens. It's not the same lens as a Black person in America. Absolutely not the same lens. And I would never pretend that it was. But there's also another perspective that I've been starting to kind of become curious about over the last few weeks. And that is the white perspective. Right? So first of all, even saying the white perspective, a lot of white people don't maybe even think of themselves as belonging to a group of people that we could call something. I know for myself, as a woman of color, I know that every time I show up, I'm representing my entire community. I know that. That's what I was taught from a very young age, and that happens to me over and over. So I kind of get that. But if you are now being lumped in with a group of people who have completely different values than you, that see the world in such a different way than you, and you're being kind of lumped in together with that group, it's probably really painful and probably pretty uncomfortable. And so, from that perspective, it's just been making me think, right? That there's all of these different people coming from all of these different places. There are some people who have, historically had more opportunity. There's others who haven't, and there's others who strategically haven't. And it's a difficult conversation. It's a confusing conversation. I will likely get it wrong. And I know in one of my earlier videos, I was kind of really angry, and it was brought to my attention that some of the language that I used there could have been hurtful, and my apologies if anybody was hurt. But I do think as we look at the collective unconscious, as we look at these shadows that are starting to emerge, these archetypes. So you may have heard me talk about archetypes before. An archetype is a group of qualities that's put together to kind of define a certain type of person. So for example, if I say the word teacher, right? There's a group of qualities that will come together for you, kind of like a template okay, this is what a teacher is. And usually that's pretty shared around the world. If I say the word mother, right, there's certain qualities that come to mind. Now, maybe not your particular mother might not have fit that template, but when you hear the word mother or good mother, you might have that template. So these are archetypes. And Carl Jung said that what we do throughout our life is we kind of dip into the unconscious and we pull out the archetype that's most needed for our evolution, our spiritual growth, and our emotional, psychological growth. And so what I'm looking at is, what are some of the archetypes that I'm pulling on right now? What am I kind of facing in myself and in the people around me? And I would say for myself, some of those archetypes are warrior, absolutely. Like there's a cause and we're going to fight and we're going to stand up and we're going to be strong and we're going to be brave. So warrior is one of those archetypes. Another archetype is perpetrator. Right? The person that does the wrong, the person that needs to apologize, the person that feels ashamed for what they've done, the person who is coming from a place of pain is why the perpetration happened. So I'm really looking at, in my own life, all the ways I've perpetrated racism within my community, outside my community. So that's another archetype that I'm looking at. It's really uncomfortable, right? It makes me kind of sick to my stomach when I acknowledge all the ways that I have discriminated against people for a variety, whatever the reasons might be, but there was an assumption before someone even started to speak. And or it could be argued some of those are for safety, and for me, absolutely. In some situations, it's about safety. It's about, I'm going to make sure that you're safe before we go there, emotionally safe. So, warrior, perpetrator. Another one that's coming up is the wailing woman, right? The archetype of the wailing woman. So you can imagine just the grief, the incredible bottomless pit of grief and despair that some of us are tapping into, right? So the archetype of the wailing woman. Another archetype that's come through through some of my teachers is the wise guide, right? So that wise, one of my friends said sage, right? This wise elder that's seeing the big picture, seeing things from a more of an aerial perspective, and giving some observations on that. So those are some of the things. And again, when I think of this from a journey type of view, that we are here at this time in history to witness these events in this way, and you're watching this particular video for your reasons of watching it, what is it that we're being asked to learn, and how is it that we're being asked to grow? I know I've been asking myself those questions in a really, really deep way. And so I would encourage you to do the same, and to think about one last thing around the collective unconscious is one of my teachers, Dr. Chuck Spezzano, talks about the ocean of despair. Right? The ocean of despair. It's a place in the collective unconscious where we can access not only our own pain, but the pain of generations of people, of our ancestral pain, and not only our own personal line of ancestry, the pain of humanity tucked away in this collective unconscious. And some of us have the bandwidth to feel that. And so if you're one of those people, if you're that empathic person that's feeling that, just that incredible emotion right now, know that you're helping. You might be feeling rage right now. Okay, so feel it. You might be feeling apathy right now. Feel it. You might be feeling tiredness right now. Feel it. You might be feeling hopeful. You might be feeling excited. Feel it. So as we're going through this journey together, as we're cutting through this trail together, it's really important that we allow those feelings to be there without judgment, and other people's feelings to be, because other people are also, we're all kind of going through this. So to allow other people to have space to get mad, or to get sad, or to get hopeful, or to, and what's hard is, if I'm happy, but somebody else in a place of despair, it's sometimes hard to hold my own happiness, right? I feel like if they're in despair, I need to join them there, but that's not the case, right? For those of us who are in that moment, are able to be at kind of a higher vibration, a holding space, then we hold. And we can empathize, and we can feel some of what that other person's feeling. We can share the load, but we don't have to go there and take it on ourselves. We can feel it, right? And then move to the next thing. It's easy to talk about, it's harder to do for sure. And we're in murky waters. It's hard to know how to act, what to say. I know some of my friends are like, I'm just not going to say anything because I seem to be hurting people's feelings wherever I go. And I've been feeling that way a little bit, that, I'm expressing myself and I'm being honest about how I feel, and people's feelings are getting hurt. And it's like, oh, that's not what I was trying to say. And I'm hoping that's okay. I'm hoping that, we hold hands together and we kind of mine this space, this murky, mulchy space together, because the work that we're doing is for humanity at large. We're at a transition point. And so as we kind of dive into this collective unconscious together, maybe we can help each other find our way out. Since we started with a poem, I also wanted to end with a poem. Okay. It's called Momentum. She starts, she stops, she stalls, trying to move ahead through the dewdrop grass, but pausing instead to feel the damp mysteries. We need momentum to break this wall around your underground, soil-filled mistakes, the parts you buried when no one was watching, the splintered glass that you painted over. It needs to all fall down again. And this time, don't try to rebuild it. We need momentum. New materials, flesh, blood, bone, and sinew, tools for your forbidden magic speared with light. Torches burning through bitter night winds, the wood and smoke roasting your crackling skin. We need momentum. You are at the end of the beginning. And the story she told you was a spider's web of deceit and mischief and windy whisperings of nothingness. So get that boulder rolling and crush the bones of your past. A new day dawns, momentum in the stillness. Was there another one? I think that's all for today. As you can see, I have lots of poems. And so if you like the poetry, if you like that approach, leave me a comment below. Tell me about how you've been doing as we kind of mine the collective unconscious together. What have been your struggles, your challenges? What have you learned about yourself, about life, about the society that you live in? Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps if you subscribe, because we're trying to get, when we get to a certain number, then we can get like our own name in the www.youtube.dragonfly, something like that. So it helps if you subscribe and pass this along. If you found this video to be helpful, pass it along. If you haven't found it to be helpful, if you found it to be upsetting, let me know. Absolutely, let me know. Leave a comment below, and we can continue the conversation. And again, from a place of curiosity, from a place of wanting to connect and wanting to really understand, and being there for each other. So those are my thoughts today for Therapist Thursday. Enjoy this journey as best you can, and we'll see you next week. Bye.